morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. My name is JP, and today I'm joined by Julian. And today's episode is brought to you by Musica, a major Maltese music festival happening next year in March 2021, and it's all about celebrating the Maltese language. Now, in the lead up to this exciting festival, the festival organizers are looking for applicants for singers, authors, lyricists, composers, and the application process is open right now. So if you're any of these, if you're music inclined or whatnot, then you can sign up to be part of this festival, and it closes on the 30th of October. So if you want to be part, just apply at musica.org and show your talents there. Now, moving on to our 5 headlines of today. Malta's criminal underworld under the microscope. Long-standing Gozo MP Frederick Atsapardi dies. Government vouchers will be included in this year's budget. Malta's COVID-19 active cases breaks the 1,300 mark. And how a Maltese teenager turned his life around from drug addiction and theft.
So, on to our first story. So, Malta's criminal underworld is under the microscope after a collaborative report between the Times of Malta and Malta Today. Essentially, the reports focused on Adrian and Roberta Juice, more commonly known as Tal Maksar. The two brothers are heavily linked to the Daphne Caruana Galizia assassination. They were arrested in December 2017 as part of the 10 who were arrested in an initial raid. However, they were actually never charged with any crime. Court sittings have referenced them every now and then. So, according to court sittings, Jorgen Fenech once told middleman Melvin Thoma to send a message to Maksar because they made the bomb that killed Daphne. Very crazy revelations, but at that point they were just allegations. Now, new reports from the Times of Malta and Malta Today have suggested that Roberta Juice, along with someone called Jamie Vella, actually tried to provide hush money to Vince Muscat, one of the 3 men initially charged with the assassination, who was actually willing to speak to police and investigators about what he knew about the crime. Obviously, very interesting stuff, but the Times of Malta piece sort of says how the web extends a lot further. So they sort of detailed how a series of as yet unsolved gang murders opened up quite a large vacuum for the Juice brothers to ascend to the very top of the smuggling operations in Malta and Europe. They're linked to cases. Basically, they actually first came into the news because Daphne Caruana Galizia wrote about them. So her first story actually detailed something to do with Moore Supermarket. This was a supermarket that went bust. It was owned by Ryan Schembri, the cousin of former Prime Minister's Chief of Staff Keith Schembri. Quite a dodgy deal. Essentially, one of the investors, Carmel Kirkop, who gave the Juice brothers a €750,000 loan, turned up dead. So, very, very questionable stuff. I don't know what you think about it all.
Yeah, I mean, reading the story, it's pretty crazy. It kind of exposed this vast network, criminal network that they were involved in. I mean, this dates all the way back to 2008 with the killing of their father, actually, in a Birkirkara club, supposedly by a hitman. That remains unsolved, but their criminal record or their notoriety extends all the way back to 2008. In fact, Robert Juice, one of the brothers, was charged with heroin trafficking or brought to court for heroin trafficking in 2012. However, him and his lawyers claimed that his rights were breached because the court took too long after someone was meant to testify but then refused to testify and whatnot, and they claimed his rights were breached. So as of this summer, actually, the case was concluded and he walked away scot-free. Which is pretty crazy to imagine, but we can see that it spans decades really of criminal network, and it's just coming to public eye as of this week. Moving on to our next story, quite a sad story actually, and one that kind of shocked the Maltese Islands over the weekend. Long-standing Gozo MP Frederick Atsapardi has passed away, aged 71. Mr. Atsapardi had long been suffering from health problems, but it wasn't quite, they didn't publish the cause of his death, but he was first elected in Parliament in 1998. He was quite a prominent politician, quite a known politician. Has been involved in politics for quite some time. He most recently occupied the post of opposition's deputy whip, and the news of his death, shocked kind of the political sphere, but also people around him and everyone in Malta who knew him. Politicians from both sides of the spectrum were paying their respects to Frederick Gatzapardi, understanding that he was, while they might not have agreed with his policies or whatnot, he was a stern politician and a good politician in his own right.
The tributes were very, very warming, seeing everyone from all sides of the political divide coming together. Even his son, Luca Gatzapardi, who is the Gozo fashion designer, wrote quite a touching, short, brief post. Very sad news for anyone involved in politics and anyone who knew him. Condolences to the family, and next to move on. So our next story of the day deals with the budget. So tonight, Malta's government will come together and present the budget for the next year. Not much has been revealed so far, except that the highly popular government vouchers will be included this year. So for those who don't know, the government vouchers were handed out to people to spend at catering establishments, retail, kind of to kickstart or at least keep the economy going during the COVID-19 pandemic. Prime Minister Roberto Abela hasn't actually said much on the budget. The only thing he's sort of hinted at is that social initiatives are going to triple from 35 million euro to a total spend of 100 million euro. Obviously, that's maybe not so surprising given the COVID-19 pandemic and the actual stimulus package that has to go into it. But Roberto Abela also said that this is also going to include long-term planning. It's going to look to the future for what Malta can provide. We'll see obviously how this plays out. It's a particularly important budget this year, with so many industries still struggling. That includes catering, so many people still trying to, get through it. There's a lot of uncertainty left to go. I don't know what you think about it.
I mean, the industry is struggling, and you can see that obviously because a lot of the lobby groups are calling for a second round of vouchers. Actually, Chamber of SMEs is doing so. The entertainment industry as well is calling for its own specific cultural vouchers to be spent on the arts and culture, because obviously that's taking a massive hit with everything being closed. I mean, these next few months are crucial for determining how the economy pans out over the years, because the winter and spring months tend to be especially when it comes to tourism, tends to die down. So I think it's more important now that we inject more money into the economy, that people are spending, and the government is encouraging people to spend so that we can keep these industries afloat until next year. Even if so, it's going to be a struggle anyways, because they've lost out on a whole summer, and there's places like Radisson that are temporarily closed down because of this. So I think government vouchers are more crucial now than they were in the first round, to be honest with you. Moving on to our fourth story, and again staying in the vein of the COVID-19 pandemic, Malta now breaks the 1,300 mark for active cases. We now sit at 1,347 active cases to be precise. And over this weekend, Malta's breaking records, but not in a good way. There was a record 204 active cases in a single day, which is the most we've had since the pandemic arrived back in March. Obviously, in light of these, the second wave, I think we can definitely say it's the second wave. The government introduced some fresh restrictions, including 11 p.m. curfew for bars and restaurants, and the mandatory wearing of face masks, as you can see, with us everywhere in public and whatnot, which there's a 1 week grace period for people to, for that, and then next week they'll be issuing fines. What do you think?
I've got sort of mixed feelings about it. So while I do think something like mandatory mask wearing is important, I still can't understand the logic of making mask wearing mandatory if you're going for a walk by yourself in the countryside. I think that's a bit ridiculous. And the second one also has to do with this proposal on bars. So for me, it just seems like the Prime Minister is clutching at straws at this moment. So in June and July, bars were open till whatever time we wanted. People went out, they drank, and active cases dropped to 3. Ever since they've opened the flights, reopened schools, acted as though nothing has happened. I mean, who can forget the second waves are in the sea? Chris Fenn saying we actually won the war against COVID-19. But it seems now they're saying that bars are the problem, not a
Yeah.
lack of planning, not other issues,
Exactly.
you know, which I find a bit problematic myself.
I agree.
On to our final story, to move on a little bit. Quite a difficult story, but you know, quite positive in its own way. Sort of how a Maltese teenager turned his life around after drug addiction and theft. So in a really powerful video, Chris sort of explains how at just 13 years old he fell into drug addiction. You know, he started hanging out with people who were a bit older than him. He started running errands for them, which included dropping off drugs for them.
Yeah.
And slowly he began using. At just 13 he was already using cocaine. At 14 he was already smoking crack. You know, that's quite a scary escalation. So Chris detailed how to fund his drug addiction. He would effectively steal up to 1,000 euros per day. I mean, it sounds like a real lot of money for most people, but Chris still found a way to spend that money almost immediately. I mean, his exact words were, I'd steal 1,000 euro in the morning, and by the evening I've smoked it all. So quite crazy stuff. Obviously, he stole quite a lot from it, and eventually life caught up with him. You know, at just 17, Chris was sentenced to prison. Unfortunately, at first, as he sort of explains, he blamed everyone but himself. He thought there was a problem with the justice system, thought there was a problem with authority, started acting out, started fighting, started even self-harming, eventually even extending his sentence to a 7-year sentence. You know, that's quite sad. Luckily, I suppose, is that a lot of these bad turns in his life eventually forced Chris to make a serious change. You know, he entered into a program for addiction in prison and sort of worked his way to building the building blocks to become a stronger person. What's really interesting is part of his recovery program, he actually began meeting people he stole from. So I think it's quite an illuminating aspect to this, where Chris sort of explains, you know, some people ignored him and refused to speak to him, and still refused to speak to him to his day. And he sort of explained, you know, he feels so awful about what he did. He knows there are certain things he can't take back because he knows he stole some items that were just sentimental value, you know, a father's watch who had passed away, or an aunt's thing, you know. It's a very sad story, but he managed to get out of it, no?
Yeah, no, I mean, there is actually a kind of good ending to this story. Chris managed to change his life around and enrolled in some cooking classes or cooking course in prison, and eventually continued that outside of prison, and he rose to the prominence of a chef. He now works as a chef. He has been working as a chef for the past 5 years, a complete, you know, turnaround from his previous life. He's putting that all behind, and you know, he has a family now, a 5-month-old daughter. But I think something to take away from this is that, you know, we all see prison as a kind of like a punishment for people, but these rehabilitation programs, these courses or whatnot, you know, are the most important thing, because these people need to live their life outside of prison after they leave. It's important that they rehabilitate and they have a path to, you know, to go on after prison. So the fact that he, you know, rose to a chef now it's great. It's a great, you know, bounce back story. You know, and it's really promising to hear that there are people out, you know, who manage to make these recoveries. At the same time, it makes you realize that there are people in society who fall between the cracks. And we just don't see them most of the time, and it's a shame. Thank you for joining us today. Just to remind you, this episode is brought to you by Musica, which is a major Maltese music festival happening next year in March 2021. And their application is open right now for authors, lyricists, composers, singers, you name it. If you're musically talented, you should sign up, because applications close by 30th of October. If you're thinking of signing up, do so at musica.org and show your talents there. Thank you for joining us today, and have a day full of loving. Bye-bye.